Hello everyone, welcome back to Consultant Chronicle. My name is Mark Thompson.
And I'm Scott Thibodeau.
So in this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about consulting in general. A lot of people think it's the dream job. There are students, there are potential IT professionals who believe consulting can be the dream job. That's not necessarily the case. Now, I enjoy what I do, and I have to deal with the negative aspects of consulting. So I'm curious, Scott, from your point of view, if you were thinking about being a consultant, what would you be asking? What would you want to talk about?
Well, I definitely want to talk about, well, what are the pros? There's got to be some great advantages, and what would attract you to potentially take that and step in that direction?
Well, scheduling, that's a big deal. It is your schedule. Vacations, as you know, it's very important to me and my family. And now with my children out of the house on their own, it's my wife and I, and we have even more flexibility right now with the scheduling. So yeah, we make our schedule, and that's a good thing.
I see. See, we got to balance that kind of idea out. Of course, it's positive, but what about the clients and how their schedule kind of dictates, in a sense, what you do and when?
Well, despite being flexible, and some consultants like to brag about their schedule and how flexible they are, in the end, many of us still have to respond to the client needs. We may still have to respond to emails and phone calls, and it's not a 9 to 5 job. It really isn't.
Right.
We may like to think it is, that, we set our schedule, I'm going to work half a day. The client really, in the end, is going to have a lot to say when it comes to our schedule.
Certainly. Well, how about your capability to maybe determine which jobs you take or which ones you don't? I imagine that's
That's a
attractive.
positive thing. I'm fortunate enough to, and I recognize my fortune. I am fortunate enough to do what I like. It's not always the case. I am blessed in that aspect. There are jobs that I've done that I don't like, I don't enjoy. The technology, I think a particular technology is unreliable. But if you were my client and you want the technology, it's a paycheck. It is. If I can implement it, if I understand the technology, you know what? I need a job right now. I'm going to take that job. And it happens to a lot of people. It happens to me too. I'm no one special, but great. The jobs, you want to do what you want when you want. That's perfect.
Right.
I want to implement SharePoint. I want to do PowerShell. I want to deploy Windows 10. And I get to do all of those. Awesome. But on the downside, if a client wants you to go and come up with a deployment solution for Windows 7, if they're still running Server 2008 R2, if they want you to create a solution to tie in their Unix platform with Server, I'm going to say yes. I may not like it, but it happens.
Right, because those are the jobs that help keep you doing what you want to do.
Yes.
Pay the bills and move on.
Yeah.
Well, moving on especially is...
Well, travel. I have to bring up, that's another plus. Traveling, it's January 15th, and you are now traveling to California. Okay. It's February 6th, and you have an opportunity to work downtown Orlando in February. Now, we're here on the East Coast, on Northeast, so those locations I just mentioned, yeah, that's fine.
Attractive.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Like I said in a prior episode, I have friends and family all over this country, and I get to see them a lot because I travel a lot to those places. So that's a good thing. Travel is definitely good.
Very good, very good. And no downsides to the travel part of it?
Oh boy. Well, okay, you're watching the weather. You've been scheduled 2 weeks out. You know that you're going to, say, North Carolina, and you're starting to track that weather system coming up the East Coast. It's a nor'easter. So yeah, you're stressing about the weather because you have to travel. If you don't travel, you don't get paid. Okay. The other thing is, I remember the famous storm, hurricane that we had here in the Northeast some years ago. I was in Ohio at the time, and New York City, half of New York City was being flooded. My daughter was in college, and they lost power.
Right.
And there was nothing I could do. I am so far away. So she's out of touch. My wife is out of touch because here in Connecticut, we also got impacted. But where was I? I was traveling. I was away from home. So yeah, it's not all it's cracked up to be. In ideal situations, travel is a good thing when it comes to being a consultant.
All right. You also have the ability to, as you mentioned, travel, and that means you pretty much have a flexible or mobile place where you work, right? You've got a flexibility with that.
Well, some people say they'd like to work from home. They will always want to work from home, and that's all they talk about, working from home, working from home. It's Friday, wish I didn't have to go in. That's great. Consultants get that a lot. They get to work from home. But if they work from home, they also have to accept the fact that they have to work on the go. I mean, do the paperwork on their laptop, fill out forms. You're not at home, you're on the road. You can't wait till you get home. So being mobile can be a good thing, but in many cases, it's a bad thing. You get to a particular hotel and you're calling the front desk. There's no power outlets in this room. It's being tied up by the clock and everything else. So
Right.
why? You need to plug in. You're trying to get internet access. You're on the road. So it's being flexible. That's great. That's awesome. Now, on a personal note, for example, my mom in Florida, we have an office in her home. In Port St. Lucie, there's an office. And so when I go down on business, that's great. I have a second office, so to speak. We just have to think ahead and prepare for those situations. Being flexible with your office locations, great. Great on paper. Sounds great on the surface. You just have to be prepared for the reality.
Right.
You may not always be able to work where you want to work.
Right.
But you have to work when you have to work.
When you have to work.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Now, Mark, you had mentioned something earlier, and that was that you're able to kind of have some flexibility with the jobs that you take or don't take and things of that nature. Does that also kind of go hand in hand with the clients you decide to kind of work with more frequently or not as often? And how does that work?
You do. You play the most important part in the client relationship. It comes down to you. You are the catalyst. The client relationship, as you and I know, relationships are important. And you want repeat business. You want to end on a good note and all the positive things that come with a great client. Paying on time, that's fine. But it does happen where you have to walk away sometimes. True story. I have to tell you this. Notice I said true as if I'm going to tell you a lie, but it's a habit of mine. Okay. So Office 365. A friend of mine called me and said, Mark, there's a particular eye doctor in Massachusetts. Could you help? He has 3 locations. Can you help him convert the office over to 365? He's too busy. He can't do this, so he's passing it on. I'll do a favor. I'm not interested, but I'm going to take a job that I'm really not interested in. And so here I am working for this person, and I remember 5 hours on the phone with Microsoft one day. Okay? I remember chasing down the doctor, missed phone calls, not responding. In the end, we did convert over. We Office 365 all the way. Exchange, SharePoint, everything in the cloud. And when it was time to submit an invoice, I'm not getting the return calls or emails. I walked away. I never did submit the invoice. I saw the writing on the wall. I walked away from that. I didn't want the headache. So that is key, to have that flexibility, to walk away and to have some control over the client relationship is a plus. It is a benefit. if I had to think of a negative with that, with you controlling the client relationship, remember, you're just half of it. Yes, you are important,
Right.
but you are half of that.
That's true.
So,
The client has to feel the same way about the relationship from their perspective, saying,
Yes.
hey, is this someone that I would want to continue to work with in the future?
that's right. That's right. You know, these pros and cons it's something so important for future consultants to be aware of. And I have to tell you, Scott, I have a cousin who recently graduated from University Toronto, and it's a master's, and she's looking to get into IT, perhaps one of 2 or 3 occupations that she's thinking about. And we talked the other day via messaging, and she wants to talk to me about what I do, about the IT field. I have to be upfront with her. One, she's my cousin, I love her. I have to really be honest and not just paint the perfect world for her. Say, well, you really, to be a consultant, to do this job, you've got to really like it. You've got to like the benefits, the pros, the positives, more than you hate the negatives. And that's my message to her. So if Vicky is watching, I hope she's not going to be discouraged, but more, things to think about.
Things to think about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what about you? Would you get into consulting?
Great question.
I put you on the spot.
Great question.
Is something you would ever think about at all?
Again, choosing again which direction I would go within consulting. It's crossed my mind.
Okay.
Crossed my mind. I do like a lot of the pros about things that you can do and control.
Now you have the stability, and that's a positive for you and your family as well.
Right.
I mean, you and I spoke before with this, and if I had to ask you what's a positive for not being a consultant, that's one of the first things that you would throw my
you
way.
definitely have that safety net.
Yeah, the safety net. Yeah.
The other resources supporting you, because as a consultant, you're it. You're
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
You wear all the hats.
Sure.
And so on. And
Yeah.
I chose to just wear a couple hats.
The
and
people,
not so many.
the people I would hire, for example, to help me or to do something for me, it is so stressful because a good consultant takes everything personally. Some people may disagree, but
Right. I think you have to.
Right. And so that person going out there to represent you, they have to be a clone of you. Yes, I may overthink it, but you want them to be
An
that clone.
extension of your ideas.
Extension, absolutely,
right.
absolutely. So, anyway, but yeah, I think that was a good discussion. Consulting, it's great, but there are some negatives to it, and it's not for everyone.
It's not.
So,
It's not.
yeah. So I hope our future clients and students and potential consultants out there, I hope they got something from our discussion here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do appreciate you watching Consultant Chronicle. My name is Mark Thompson.
And I'm Scott Thibodeau.
Thank you for watching.